Well, hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is going to be the fourth video in a series that I've been doing over the summer where we go over the top 10 champions of every class. And man, these have taken a minute to think about and come up with, but I don't think there's one that has been stranger to put together a top 10 than the tech class. Because like there are some at the top that I knew were going to make this list, but I swear like 6 through 10, it might as well be like 6 through 30 because there are so many useful tech champions that I'm not going to even include on this list. Like I will just tell you right off the top of my head, like Yondu is not on this list, but Yondu's Sig ability, especially stacked with inequity, is like one of the most insane mechanics in the game for just special attacks, you know, things like that. Punisher 2099, when you run him with the what's called tech collar mastery, like they're just getting no power. So like there's no ability power rate. His power control is insane, right? But like they didn't make my list just because I had to kind of look at the whole picture, like see if there were other champions like doing the Yondu thing, doing the Punny 99 thing slightly better, and that's why champs like that didn't make the list. But it definitely broke my heart. Like one of my favorite champions, War Machine, didn't even make my top 10. So you guys are probably wondering like, well, like who actually did make the top 10? So again, this one's going to be a little different because of one thing. I am removing Ghost from the equation, and I am just going to say right now that Ghost is the #1 best tech champion in the game. But because that is so completely obvious, like that to me, there's not even a question that Ghost is the best tech champion because of her range and her ability to take on like all the classes, unless if there's some kind of armor break. I'm just not going to talk about her. So we're going to do the top 10 tech champions, not including Ghost. So because of that, you get a bonus champion. It's technically top 11 because I just told you that Ghost was #1, but we're going to name a different #1. That's how tech is going to work. And like I've said with all the videos, there's going to be champs that I left off. I already named a couple, and I apologize because I know we all have our favorite champions and we all have our arguments for why they've been meaningful to us. But I am trying to use this imperfect format to just have a little bit of fun and give you sort of a fun and entertaining list of my personal top 10. Before we get started with these tech champions, I do want to mention that when we did Mutant, I did kind of give like a placeholder for Danny Moonstar. When it comes to Lady Deathstrike, I'm not 100% sure where she's going to land. I do think she's going to take a lot of skill, and she has kind of an interesting rotation. The regen is obviously bonkers, and taking on Wolverines are very, very good. I do think she'll make it into the top 10. I'm just not exactly sure where. So that's where I'm going to leave it when it comes to Lady Deathstrike. And with that, we're tackling one of the most difficult classes today, the tech class, and we're starting with number 10, which for me is Viv Vision. Now, she could be higher. I feel like I always say that about number 10, but she could definitely be higher. The thing is, man, I think if one thing goes wrong, it's over. If one thing goes wrong, you're in a whole bit of trouble there. And what's the trade-off for things not happening? Well, yeah, there's a nice heal block, there's a nice suppression. She can control prowess, that's nice. But the trade-off is basically damage. The trade-off is damage. It's like she has a rotation that, yes, it places heal blocks, it has bits of utility, you're not taking damage if you're playing her correctly. She's extremely fun to play. She's like one of my favorite champs that came out this year by far. Because of that little mini game, it's so fun. But it's like, why are you risking all that stuff? Well, to do damage. And it's like, well, why would you do that just to get big damage? And yeah, I get it. She can play contactless. She can spam the special 1, normally 1 special 2, and then the 3 special 1s are going to end any fight. That's great for battlegrounds. But when I look at the whole picture of the whole game and I think about where she lands in there, I'm not sure if that's enough. It's enough to make top 10. And once people show me like 8.3 comes out, Abyss comes out, things like that, people are just like dominating more than Battlegrounds with her and a couple war fights, I might consider putting her even higher. But there are just some other sort of like stalwart tech champions who are doing a variety of utility and have tankiness. Like I feel like part of the tech class armor ups, like being able to have resistances and be really tanky, regen at the end of their life, things like that. Part of those are part of the tech class, and she doesn't have that. And the trade-off, once again, is the fight's over quickly if you do it right. But there's not much of a safety net there. I love Viv Vision, don't get me wrong. I wish I could put her higher, but given the other champions she's up against in this class, I'm giving her number 10. Number 9 is Shuri, and this is, of course, the buffed version of Shuri. Before, there was this really convoluted rotation that you had to do. You had to build up and do a special 2 and then a special 1 and alternate and get all these shocks. And then after several minutes, you would have this glorious moment of like 99 shocks and 99 passive shocks and just be like, yes, I am shocking this Abyss opponent to death. But God, it took a long time to get there. The way they tweaked her, she is usable in short form content. If you haven't seen the videos yet, if you haven't heard, you can spam special 1s, man. That's enough. You can spam special 1s. You can get those guaranteed crits. You can get the active shocks, turn them into the passive shocks. If it's a longer match, you can use other specials. You can use the heavy attack if you want. But, you know, at her base, she does a crap ton of shock damage. That is awesome. In addition to that, she does non-contact hits. She does energy hits. That has a lot of applications. There's a lot of times in the game where you want to be able to be doing that, whether it's countering thorns or just doing energy damage if they're resistant to energy, things like that. She doesn't crit. That's really good. But also, she can guarantee crit if you want her to. And she has an untouchable. She has an untouchable, which is great. You know, when it comes to fighting her partner in the contest, Atuma, she might be the best Atuma counter now, right? Because she's got the shocks and she's got the immunity to thorns, basically. So I really like Shuri. I think they did a great job with her. When stuff like Abyss 2 comes out, or whatever it's going to be called, she's probably going to be one of the best options as long as they're not shock immune. But we've proven that in the short matchup, she can really do it very quickly. It's very simple. It's very safe. And she's just a great champion for that. So that's why Shuri for me comes in at number 9. Now, number 8, I had to find a place for this guy because he's still so solid, and that's Guardian. Now he may have fallen off in popularity a little bit, but he's still freaking Guardian. He's got that big armor up. He doesn't crit. He's got the resistances off of the Sig. He's got the ability to parry the specials, you know, to ramp him up that way, get the perfect blocks. I think you know a lot about this guy. He can be a little bit of a nuke with that big special 2 that he has as well. He's just stood the test of time, and like there's a reason a lot of people have him at rank 4, but not rank 5, right? That's kind of where like people this low on the list, like he's not your go-to to rank 5. But maybe someday when the game develops and the health pools get longer, rank 5s are a lot easier to get. He's an easy shoe-in. But a rank 4 Guardian is just such a tank and such a utility monster. I didn't even cover half of his utility, but I think he's been in the game long enough that you understand what he can do and why so many people respect him. That's why he's going to make the number 8 spot. I couldn't not include Guardian. I think he's just too good, even though, you know, he may be slightly outdated in a few people's minds. Like there are other champions that sort of took the model that he invented and they sort of took it to the next level. You know, I'm kind of looking at iDoom in that. He's still freaking Guardian, and he's still a utility monster, tanky and very good damage, and just answers problems all over the place. Now at number 7, I'm giving this one to Penny Parker. She's got good immunities. And she does incinerate damage. If you use the iDoom synergy, she can actually do shock damage too. Quick fact there. I really like the way her shield works. You can take 0 damage on block and parries leading up to like when you're set up in the fight. Her power burn, the way the special 1 works, where you can ramp yourself up with your spider sense charges, is really satisfying. And once you get to the special 2, it's like a nuke potential for sure. So, you know, whether it's taking hazard shift fights, or anything else where you just want to be really tanky and like lean into those immunities and that incinerate damage, she's just a very reliable champion. And I think like a lot of people know her for defense, but there's so many counters for her on defense that we've kind of looked at her again on offense. And I do think that she does make my top 10. Again, like sad that there were some other champions I weren't able to include. When I looked at her whole picture and like what I want tech champions to be doing, I think that she really does it. They gave like a cool little Spider-Verse tag with her with the auto block instead of the evade. I think that's kind of interesting because she's got this big tech suit. And again, power burn, big special 2. There's just not a lot to her kit, but it's plenty. The perfect parries. There's a lot going on there for Penny Parker. JT in my battle group has a rank 5, and I've seen some of the gameplay and have been very impressed. So she is going to come in at number 7. All right, speaking of number 6, I'm giving this to iDoom. And again, people wanted him to be Mystic Doom, right? People wanted it to be complete shutdown Doom cycle, and it's not. Like, you push him red, you throw the special 3, it's probably not going to be a good time. That's not how you play him. But you know, he has some of those Guardian things. He has a big armor up. He has resistances. He has the ability to not crit. But on top of that, they made him the best Bishop counter in the game, hands down. He just absolutely hoses everything that Bishop is going to do to you, from the Incinerate immunity to the ability to remove the prowesses and turn them into energy vulnerability. He just neuters everything that Bishop can throw at you. And that's good. We needed a really good Bishop counter, but he's a lot more than that. In most fights, if you chain a heavy from the shock into a special 2, when they're over 2 bars of power, those critical power burns are not only going to power control them, but they're going to just do a ton of damage, and you never have to get to the special 3. But if you want to do the special 3 rotation, it ain't no Doom cycle, but it's pretty darn close. If you heavy attack into the special 3, after you've gone into the aura, you each get an energize, which gets you up to your special 1 faster, and then they're special locked for a ton of time. They're special locked for a ton of time, and you can probably get off 2 massive special 2s when they have almost 3 bars of power while being special locked. If you make a mistake, you have like Ultron's regen on steroids. Not only are they special locked, you get a massive regen. You end up with like 40 or 50% health back. That also makes him annoying on defense. I think a lot of people don't like him because he's not as flashy, and he doesn't have like that like total safety net button of the special 3 that Big Doom does. But he is still really, really, really good. There are a number of fights, whether it's Kitty Pryde or Bishop particularly, but other mutants where he just absolutely hoses them. And at Sig 200, when he's got that big regen and extra resistances, he's even more tanky, very hard to die with. I do really, really enjoy this guy, probably more than the average person. I was one of the most excited people to get him, and he's my number 6 tech champion in the game. All right, so now we've hit the top 5, and again, don't forget, Ghost is not on this list, so it's technically the top 6, but we're gonna call it the top 5. And here's a champ I don't know a lot about, but I'm going off of what other people are saying. Shocker. I'm giving it to number 5. Yes, big white numbers, right? That was the thing that he was advertised to do. He also happens to have prowess removal, and he also happens to have a lot of other tech utility that we love to see. I've only kind of died to him a bunch on defense because I don't know how to fight him yet, but it seems like special 1, special 1, special 2, he gets the refund on that special. It's not that hard to play him. It seems like he's a very, very simple to use champ. He's got good immunities, including immunity to concussion, which is kind of a new thing, and then obviously shock. I mean, his name is Shocker after all. And yeah, so he's a different kind of tech champion. I'm vibing with this big white numbers thing that he has off of the heavy, of course, but getting the special refund also seems really nice. And just from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like a lot can get in his way, because it just involves throwing specials, ramping up, and then doing the heavy during the stun. So I do like him a lot. I might be overrating him a little bit, but I am kind of going based on the feedback of people that do have him that say watch out for this guy, and I'm trusting what they're saying. There is a chance that he does move around a little bit in this list in the future, but right now I'm cautiously giving him number 5 because I think he does deserve it based on the gameplay videos that I've seen. Now, number 4, this is, by contrast, a champion I have a ton of experience with, and that's Omega Sentinel. Now, she's often looked at as like Nimrod's baby cousin or something, but she is her own unique champ, and the main thing that she has is that Nullify immunity. is so powerful. It's a tech champion that can take buffet and power snack, who has a lot of buffs, and it doesn't matter. That's huge. And the fact that she has the very easy access to miscounter, the very easy access to cowardice, and the very easy access to heal block, depending on how you play her, you can pretty much keep up one of those debuffs all fight without a lot of maintenance. If you're really smart about playing her, finding openings, knowing when to end with a light, knowing when to end with a medium, you can build up a bunch of them, have a big special 2, have a big special 3, and just keep up those 6 incinerates or plasmas the entire time. Really good Kitty Pryde counter. Anytime there's a lot of prowess and she's awakened as well, the awakened ability gives her a little energy resistance, but more importantly, it will stack even more plasmas against those mutants that have a lot of prowess. I love using her against Sauron. Obviously, with the defense tactic, she's better, but even without, I kind of like her without it because she doesn't remove the prowess. And then the special 2 is absolutely massive. There were a lot of nodes in 8.2 where I chose Omega Sentinel because they were like prowess punishing nodes. So the node was amplifying her as well as her own kit with being able to punish that prowess. So yeah, she's a very good champion, a definite rank 5 candidate for me. And you know, despite what some people think, I still rate her in my top 4 tech champions just because of everything she can do. All right, so now we're down to the top 3. And I'm going to give number 3, I almost said to Adam Warlock, who's not a tech champion. I'm giving this one to regular old Warlock, the New Mutant robot dude, because he is one of the older champions, but he has not changed in his effectiveness and what he can do. He is just extremely versatile. He can bleed them, he can shock them, he can power drain them, he can armor break them. If they're healing at all, he can degen them. He has a nice little regen off of the special 3. He's a robot himself. And the infection, a passive heal block that's very long that can lead to extra power drains if they are healing at that time. You know, he's tried and true, man. He's Warlock, has the armor up, and man, I mean, that special 2, like running recoil with those armor breaks, if hits are critting on that special 2, there are just so many hits. Doesn't need recoil, but like I've seen him absolutely nuke people in battlegrounds like dominoes and stuff, which he's usually not the best counter for, but he can just get it done. His animations have always been some of my favorite. I think he's just so goofy, and for some reason it's really easy to connect light attacks with him, which is very helpful for a lot of scenarios, especially the way that you play him sometimes. So Warlock is still one of the top 3 champions in my mind. I think he's just really that good. Number 2 is going to go to one of the newbies of the contest, and that, of course, is Ant-Man Future. Now, you know, B McG, I've talked about him a lot on this channel. Of course, he was super early on Future Ant-Man. He has like a whole slew of content on him. Like if you are denying how good this guy is, you got to watch that content because it is excellent. It's made me a believer. I finally pulled him. Doesn't super need the awakening to just do his regular rotation, but at Sig 1, he gets the 10% damage reduction, which, you know, it makes him like Gallon immune, basically. Any big burst of damage is going to be capped at 10. And then if he's Sig 200, he also basically becomes able to do various hazard shift because of the immunities to certain debuffs, which is just very useful for that. It kind of reminds me of like Ultron Sig, where like it just gives you the ability to take on hazard shift and other debuffs. But, you know, the reason Punisher 2099 isn't on the list is sadly because Future Ant-Man exists. And like Punny 99 used to be the combat power guy that could just make sure that they never throw specials. Well, Future Ant-Man does that, and he just has a lot more damage and a lot more tankiness. Like he not only has the armors, but he has the glancing, he has the power drains off of that, like the power detonation passive thing. And like if you just play patiently, you put the disintegrations on them, it lowers their combat power rate. You can just, as long as they don't throw it into your block, you can either prevent them from throwing specials, or you can manipulate them to only throw specials when your icon is gray, so that when it's red, you can get the maximum amount of damage. Throw a couple disintegrates on them, throw a special 2. The special 2 just hits so hard. It's absolutely crazy. His Surging Swarm is a little bit like an Infuriate, where you can get more aggressive AI. Aggressive AI helps anyone's kit in any scenario, and he just gets it naturally from just like playing the character basically. basically. You can get those intercepts and those heavy punishes a lot faster, which keeps him ramped up. It's very nice. He's obviously annoying to fight on defense, but I'm mostly talking about his offensive kit here because it really just fits together in such a beautiful way. I think he's such a good champion, such a good addition to the tech class. Really, really like Ant-Man Future. He looks cool as hell as well, and I have no problems giving him my number 2. Secretly, it's number 3 slot. All right, and now the number 1 champion that isn't Ghost is going to be Nimrod, and no surprise there. Like, he's almost Ghost level of obviousness towards the top of the list, but he doesn't just counter mutants, he counters anything with prowess and regen. But, you know, spoiler alert, a lot of mutants have annoying regen and annoying prowess. It's just such a crazy kit, man. I mean, his ability to remove them and turn them into shocks, and then just ramp up off of the parries, getting lots of armors for tankiness, a little bit of power control thrown in there, a little bit of regen off the special 3. That's all good and nice, but it's mostly about getting to the eradicate protocol, getting the 10 charges and throwing that special 2 and just watching them die, man. And the thing is, the way his SIG works, it not only increases the potency, but it increases the duration. So it's like an exponential growth of that shock damage. That's why his SIG 200, especially with attack boosts and things like that, and special boosts, it's just ending fights with one special 2. So you can just do like advanced power boosts and just end them in war. You know, very few mutants are safe against Nimrod. It's very obvious to me why he's my number 1. And then, of course, like we said, Ghost is the obvious number 1. I'm just not going to talk about her because I think it's so obvious with Ghost, and I was going to have a little bit more fun picking 11 champions. But yeah, Ghost exists, and she's still doing Ghost things for sure. So anyway, this was by far the hardest one for me. It was really difficult to talk about these champions and say why I picked them. But hopefully, if you look back at the list and you kind of see the flow of who I picked, you can see I kind of covered a lot of different tech utility in a lot of different ways. And some of the champions that I left off do similar things, but just not as well as some of the people that did make the list. And that's why they just barely missed. But you can make an argument that the next 10 best tech champions that weren't included on this list are equally powerful as some of the ones toward the bottom as well. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to smash that like button, share it with your friends. Do leave respectful comments. I always love the discourse that we have about some of these champions. Let me know if I'm an idiot, if I left off your favorite champ, and we can have a nice positive discussion about it in the near future. So anyway, my top 10 tech champions, I think we're done with that one. And we still have 2 more videos in this series. We still have Mystic and Cosmic, which is going to be pretty exciting. So stay tuned later in the summer for the next one in the series. That's all I got for you today. Thanks for checking it out, and I'll catch you in the next one.